industry. So, first of all, Macduff and Foster, Monthly Review produced a very good book on the process, and say it's the well-to-do who should foot the bill, not only for reasons of elementary justice, but also because they're collectively in their system constitute the reason that things are as bad as they are, and because the best way to help both the economy and those at the bottom is to address the needs of the latter directly. But, they say, capitalism takes advantage of social inertia, using its power to rob outright when it can't just rely on normal exploitation. Without resistance from below, the burden will simply be imposed on those at the bottom. All of this requires a mass social and economic upsurge, and so forth. Now, simply saying we need a social and economic upsurge from below, it was all very well. The reason what we need is actually, in a sense, a series of battle cries, a series of demands that will make sense to the experience of ordinary working people. So firstly, taking control of the financial system. Well, it's, a large chunk of our banking system has been nationalised, and it hasn't had the desired effect. What's happened is that the government money used to prop it up has gone to actually underpin the dodgy balance sheets. So the state must exercise a monopoly on the creation of capital. And in practice, that would mean that individual banking institutions of whatever sort would then become simply the local franchises for allocating that credit in line with national economic policy. And this could create the right environment for the development of a whole range of different forms of local community and mutual financial institutions. Rebirth of building societies, which didn't do too badly in the crisis. The establishment of credit unions on the scale of Ireland. The development of a new post office bank. The re-emergence of local authorities as bankers and so forth. So the corporate finance and retail function of banks has to be separated, and obviously trading in exotic financial instruments must be banned in Britain, and the debts acquired in trading them elsewhere be declared simply not legally enforceable. Thus they would have the same basic status as gambling debts, which in fact is what they are. So building a low carbon infrastructure. The manufacturing industry in Britain now accounts for less than 25% of GDP, and in particular our engineering and construction industries have been hollowed out to an extraordinary degree. So now if we need more trains, which we do, the only significant builders in this country are Bombardier, which is a Canadian conglomerate, or Alstom, which is a French conglomerate. And we have, for example, we've got 14 different coach builders in this country, but no actual bus manufacturers, for God's sake. And of course, one gets, here we are, a country with an energy crisis, with the best wind conditions in the world. We only had one turbine generator manufacturer in this country. It didn't produce for this country, and it's been shut down. It reminds me of an Iron Bevan back in the 40s, said of the economic magician at the time, a country built of coal and surrounded by fish, it takes a sort of genius to actually have a shortage of both simultaneously. And that's the same, it seems to me, as the sort of base of our policy on economic renewal. The Green New Deal pamphlet predicts that the development of very admirable and desirable low carbon energy systems and environmental reconstruction will see hundreds of thousands of jobs created in Britain. Now this is certainly a desirable goal, but the fact is that we know when we talk to trade unionists, very often they're obsessed with this mirage of clean coal, because it doesn't mean making any, and we have to talk not just to, for example, the coal miners. We have to talk to workers in the armaments industry, workers in the aerospace industry, those sort of industries that desperately need to be dramatically restructured. And one of the things we have to do is to say that we need a massive and rapid programme of investment and in retooling of manufacturing industry, and at the same time that we have to say, to gain the support of the workers affected, we have to say that such changes will be accompanied by an absolute guarantee of jobs with necessary retraining, with no loss of pay, security or pension rights, and a guarantee of rehousing where necessary. The situation is, in this country we've got over 4 million families on housing lists. Almost none of them will be rehoused. We need a vast housing programme. If we were to adopt the best practices in both the design and construction or refurbishment of housing for those 4 million families, we'd create between 300,000 and 400,000 jobs, but also in adopting and developing low carbon technologies, we would create many more related jobs. For example, farmers in this country can't sell upland farmers in this country can't sell wool. It actually costs more to shear the sheep than it does than they get for the wool. And yet, with the minimum of processing, it's a superior insulating material. This is oil and glass-based materials that are commonly used. And examples, thousands of examples about that, how actually adopting a rational approach to developing technology could actually revolutionise the way we work. The other issue is redistributing wealth. So one of the key factors in advancing financialisation of the economy was the dramatic redistribution of wealth away from wages as a percentage of the GDP. So it's really necessary not only to dramatically extend state spending in ways that genuinely benefit ordinary people, like rebuilding our industrial infrastructure, but also to carry out a radical redistribution of income and wealth. And Graham Turner, in his book The Credit Crunch, says the concentration of corporate powers through mergers, acquisition and leverage takeovers has to be reversed. The ability of large multinationals to control and drive labour costs down by moving jobs around from one country to the other lies at the heart of the debt problem facing the West. He says there are two ways to even out the playing field: reduce corporate power or increase the strength of labour. Now obviously both are necessary. And top-down amelioration of inequality by the state is only a partial response, and without a strong and confident labour movement, it cannot survive in the long run. But in terms of developing a programme, that's just what I want to be. We need to be able to say to workers, look, the sort of programme that we want, unimaginably expensive, but it's actually financeable. So, what sort of things do we want? Well, we want a new. The fact is that at the moment the rich aren't spending and the poor can't spend. The rich are not even the rich, the prosperous, the reasonably well off, are actually trying to pay off their debts. They're doing what the banks are doing, for God's sake, sorting out their balance sheets. And at the moment, anybody with a tracker mortgage is actually, will say, oh, I'm quite well off, actually. If you've got a tracker mortgage and a job, of course, there's always that issue, then, but lots of people are, recently there's evidence that people are paying off this huge level of personal debt. But if you happen to be on benefits, you happen to be disabled,